Hey, Tony Gassett here. A young man reached out to me in the DM and asked me to share a couple tips for men who are raising boys on how to be a man in today's society. And one of the things that I realized that was kind of hard to come by is a lot of times as parents, and I think it goes for men and women, but a lot of times as parents, we want to do what we want to do because we are adults. But we fail to realize that when you have kids, you have a responsibility that you can't do what you want to do. So you have to set an example. You have to set an example, and you have to be the man that you want your sons to be. Or you have to be the man that you would want your daughter to marry. You have to be the example. And I think a lot of times we get so caught up on the saying that from the old days, do as I say, not as I do. And it's really just, it's human nature. It's hypocritical to where we want to be able to say, hey, let me do what I want to do. Let me get drunk. Let me smoke my weed. Let me curse like a sailor. Let me do this, do that. And you'll notice sometimes you see you'll see these young men on social media do a video of their son cursing. And their son cursing very nonchalantly. And then they'll check their son on the video, but won't check themselves in real life. And they won't say, hey, well, my son cursing because I curse all the time. And not realizing that that's a poor example, because if your child goes to school and curses at the teacher, your child gonna get suspended from school. And so now, if you are practicing and teaching profanity as an adult, where it may be acceptable for you in certain scenes, as a child, now that child gonna be doing it at 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old. By the time the child 10, 11, 12, he stringing together curse words, cursing out any and everybody. And I remember my son was playing football. My oldest son, he's playing football around 10 or 11. And I was standing by the gate. And we were leaning on the gate getting ready for the game. And my son, if your child curse, you're going to slip. Your child going to slip and you're going to hear him curse. I never heard my son curse. And, when they're gaming and stuff and they get crunk, they get loud. If you curse, you're going to slip and curse. I've never once heard my son say a curse word. That don't mean he don't curse, but he still got his teeth in his mouth because he never cursed around me. Now, some people don't put that much emphasis on it because it was like, oh, it's just a curse word. Who said it's a curse word? Who said that's profanity? But the thing is once you give a little bit of room to one thing, then it opens up to other things. And then you become less sensitive to your behavior in other areas. So for me, I want to never be perfect. And anything that I do that could be misleading, I want to explain that to them so that they know and they understand. They know and they understand and say, oh, okay, so that's what this is. Last night, I explained to my 7-year-old what wine is, because a friend gave us a bottle of red wine. So I had to explain to my 7-year-old about the grapes and how getting the juice out the grapes and then letting it sit to ferment, and explain that to him so that he understands and he's not just like, oh, okay, what's this right here? And when they get an understanding of what's being said, what's being done, now they're able to process this. And it was something that I learned growing up, is everything that my dad talked to me about, I did not attempt in life because he had done it for me. Anything he did not talk to me about, I did it for myself. And that's why there's nothing off limits with my sons. Because I learn, and that's another thing, is we have to pay attention to how we learn and what we went through and what we did. And so I go through, and growing up, there was no secular music allowed in my house. Not old school R&B, nothing. It was all gospel music. And so that got me, when I became an adult, to listening to secular music, but I didn't have an understanding of secular music. So the secular music became a blueprint for my life. And I started doing what the rappers were saying doing. So it became Thug Motivation. And that was the actual song title or album title in The Real Testament and Goon Affiliated. And that's how I was living. And that was a blueprint, because I had never been told this isn't real. These are studio gangsters. These are studio stories. The realest gangsters don't make it to the studio. They might be funding the kid in the studio, but the realest ones don't make it to the booth because they don't want anything on a record. They don't want any shine. The ones who doing it because they was thrust into the streets to really earn a living to take care of their family, they don't want no shine from it, because they know any attention is gonna put them on the wrong side of the law. And so, and I remember that I was in college and I'm doing recklessness, and I remember one of my teammates, I was a running back, he was a running back, and he was from a rougher city than me. He said, ain't no thugs in college. And I was like, man, because you know, there's some people, you get in college and you trying to act tough. You want to sell your little weed, you want to do a little this, do a little that, you know, you want to try to be bad. And guys carrying guns, guys doing shootouts, guys, you know, actually shooting and killing people. Like, it's a lot going on. And one of my homeboys, when he said it to me, said, ain't no thugs in college. I said, man. And it made me realize that everything that I was trying to do and get into, and the guys that I was dealing with, a lot of us was doing it because our dad didn't tell us about it. Didn't talk to us about the pitfalls and both sides of it. And so I sit down and put secular music on and listen to it with my son and dissect it. And we talk about the ignorance in it, the irresponsibility in it, the insecurity in it, so that he knows who he's listening to, and so that he knows what he's listening to is a blueprint from pain, is a blueprint from abandonment, is a blueprint from ignorance, is a blueprint from insecurity, and that he doesn't view this young man or this young lady as a real man, as the example of manhood, so that he knows that this young man is speaking from ignorance, that this young man is speaking from pain, this young man is speaking from insecurity. Okay, this young man right here, he's speaking from confidence. This young man right here is speaking from a place of responsibility. So we listen to the music like that. This young man right here, he insecure because he does this and he did this, but he look up to and he want to be like this. And I help him understand the difference between strength and weakness, the difference between humility and arrogance. And so everything has to be a life example. And we got to be the example. We got to teach the example. You got to set the example. And the best parent is transparent. And as a parent, we have to get to the place to where we are willing to sacrifice what we want to do. So you may be adult enough to listen to secular music that has horrible messages in it, but your child is not adult enough to listen to that music and to process what they're hearing and it not affect their life. And that's why a lot of times our sons and daughters is thoughts, because of what they're listening to. And the music is giving them a blueprint, and their minds are too young to really process what they're hearing. And we as adults are saying it's just music. And that's because we have listened to it and we've heard it so much, and we've already made our mistakes that it no longer has the same effect on us. But if we actually honest about it, it still affects us. Think about the insult it is to an artist to say it's just music. It's not just music. That's their livelihood. That's their artistry. They're trying to transmit some type of feeling, some spiritual movement in their music, or for whatever spiritual side they working on. They want you to feel something. It ain't just entertainment, because it's coming from their mind or the writer's mind. And so as a father to the fathers, we have to sacrifice, and we got to be the example. I used to run like crazy. I was running like crazy. Man, I was traveling, you know, as a speaker, traveling all over the world, and then literally all over the world speaking. And it was some speaking engagements. I'm going whole other states for $1,000, just doing everything I can to make a living. And then I remember I got hired by an NBA team to be a team life coach. And I had been working with college teams. And I was working with several college teams as like a team mentor, team life coach. And then the NBA hired me. And with the NBA, the team I was working with was in a whole nother state. It was 2-3 hour flight. And my contract was I had to go there 2 days a week. But 2 days always turned into 4 days or 5 days. And then sometimes I had to get on a plane with the team and go around to different cities, to different arenas, different games. And I'm mentoring these players, and sometimes you mentoring 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes the conversations is 2, 3, 4 hours. And because of how they grew up and being like, you know, kind of treated like lab rats, treated like a product and not like a person. And you make a lot of mistakes trying to learn them, trying to understand them, trying to help. And I was 31 years old. So I think it was a player on the team older than me. And so I was positioned, but I wasn't prepared. And I remember coming home and I'm driving my son, and he was 8 years old, and he was talking, and nothing was on my mind but the players I was dealing with. And I couldn't hear my son. And I said, son, you know, it's okay to just chill sometimes. You know, you just relax. And he said, yeah, I'm quiet sometimes, but you wouldn't know because you're never here. And as an 8-year-old, and I started crying. I was driving, and that hurt me. And I said, as a father, I got to figure out a way to earn a living and to be present in my child's life. I can't use I got to make a living as an excuse to be gone, because what will I benefit to make a living and earn money, but my son lose his soul? He lose his mind. He lose his life because I wasn't a present example on a daily basis. And I started shifting my business from that day. And my mind showed me God, the spirit, my mind, however you call it. It was a blessing of God and a favor of God, but I learned how to earn a living without leaving home. So I don't have to travel at all. When I travel now, it's just from my heart, because the most important thing to me, and I just left my son recital, my 7-year-old, his Christmas play. That was 8:30 a.m. I'm proud to say that I was able to get up and go to his thing, and now I'm back home. And then today he has 2 practices, flag football and then soccer. And I'm taking them to both practices. That's my greatest accomplishment. And as fathers, we have to be more present. We got to be more real, and we got to be a better example. We got to be what we want our children to grow up to be.